Hello and welcome to the channel again. This is Sam trying to spin to win on Zwift. Today is Zwift fight night.
Let's get ready to rumble!
We're facing the Vikings Valgrind team, who I think are up for revenge.
You think?
We beat them a few weeks ago, but I think they had a last minute dropout. So it was probably a bit of an unfair fight.
Never!
But this time around they got 5 guys and they got 2 ringers. So I think we're a bit of an underdog again.
That is something of an understatement.
We're gonna do the UCI Richmond course. We're gonna do 1 lap and almost a second lap, not quite. So it's a tough course, but there should be a really good, entertaining battle, I hope. And let's see how we do. In the blue corner, we have proper Vikings, hailing from Sweden. I present Team Swedish Swifters Bifrost. In the red corner, from Norway, the wannabe Vikings, Valgrind. I still haven't developed a nicer format when comparing 2 teams. Apologies, it is on the to-do list, I promise. But looking at the figures here, we can see that the Valgrind team is stronger than Bifrost in every category I can look at.
Oh no.
For example, their average Zwift racing score is 627 versus Bifrost at 528. That is a huge difference. The same is true if you look at the Velo score, where Valgrind has almost 150 points higher on average. Again, a massive difference. And finally, if we look at watts per kilo figures over different time frames, Valgrind again is stronger across the board. And to top it all off, they also have 2 Cat A riders, Oliver and Jacob, who are very, very strong at this level of competition. So, this is going to be an uphill battle for the Bifrost team, for sure. We will do almost 2 laps of the UCI Richmond course, with the second lap finishing on the descent just after Libby Hill. It is the first time doing a club ladder race on this course for me, but I think this is another great course for this format of racing. The first 7 to 8 kilometers are fairly flat, but there's still enough bumps along the way where teams can play some fun and games. And then of course we have the 3 short but very punchy climbs in a row. First, Libby Hill, then 23rd Street, and finally a longer drag up to the finish of the first lap. By this point I would be very surprised if there's not significant separation in the race, as those 3 hills in quick succession will test a lot of riders for sure. Then we do the flattish section again, before a final effort up Libby Hill. This course should suit the puncheurs of the world, and possibly even the sprinters, as the climbs are not that long, but if you struggle with repeated short, hard efforts, you're likely to suffer on this route. Thinking back to the team comparison, I think we're in a bit of trouble here.
Yes, you are.
Going over our tactics for the race, we'll have to wait as Valgrind starts the race with a huge sprint effort. I didn't have a chance to properly warm up for this race, and I was also caught sleeping at the start. A bad double whammy for me, if you will. So the start hurt a lot more than it should have. That is for sure. Good tactic by the other team though. May as well have a go at the start and see if you can catch the other team napping. As we watch us finally catch up to Valgrind after that explosive start, and me regretting not warming up properly, a few comments on our tactics for the race. We knew that they were stronger than us, especially with 2 very strong Cat A riders, so we hoped to cover their initial attacks, and then try to get as many of us over the hills at the end of the first lap as possible. If that worked, and we had a couple of riders at the front at the start of the second lap, then perhaps we could start going on the attack a bit. And as always, if you're there at the end, you never know what can happen. We will speed up the action slightly here until the next attack by Valgrind. This time they send one rider up the road, Anders in this case I believe, and Kalle on our team does a good job covering. But we don't get much rest as another rider, Jacob this time, pushes on, and this time Jan and I cover from our team as I really didn't want two of them away at the front this early in the race. But I can already tell that the start-stop pattern of the race is making the legs hurt, at least for me. And after just another minute or so, they attack again, and this time I cover. We play a bit of drafting chess, which I have to admit I find a bit silly, but it is what it is, I suppose. It is in the game. And as soon as the rest of the group catches up, they attack again with Jacob, but I could tell he didn't really push hard, so we didn't cover. But again, they attack, this time Kjetil and Kalle on our team cover. And these two actually get a pretty good gap to the rest of the group as the pace in the main pack slowed a bit. We have skipped forward a couple minutes here. Kjetil and Kalle are now 25 seconds ahead of the rest. And then the Valgrind team puts in another massive sprint attack. We all have to respond to this one, with me in the front. And I am hitting over 1,000 watts here, which is high for me. And then I somehow managed to unclip, which stopped my momentum somewhat before I get up to speed again. And by then, my teammates start to take up the chase, and we finally catch Valgrind after a pretty hard effort. At that point, we've also almost caught up to Kjetil and Kalle as well. After this, the group finally settled down somewhat as we descend, and everybody catches a bit of a rest before the climbing starts. But I think the Valgrind tactic had worked well, as there were a lot of tired legs in our team at this point. We are now at the start of the Libby hill climb, and all 10 of us are together at this point. We all push pretty hard here, and the group stays together until we reach the top of the climb. But the Valgrind team keeps the pressure on, and one of our riders slowly start to fall off the back. We then descend and start preparing for the short but very steep 23rd Street climb. I'm feeling okay at this point still, and I push pretty hard up the climb with the Valgrind team at the front. And unfortunately, as we get to the top, it seems that the efforts earlier in the race catch up to Team Bifrost, as the rest of the team now fall off the back. Two of the Valgrind riders had also been gapped somewhat, but they worked themselves back to the front, and then I find myself in a 5 versus 1 situation again.
I'm sick and tired of this crap!
We have now skipped forward quite a bit. After the other Bifrost riders were dropped, the Valgrind team kept a steady pace, effectively doing a time trial, with me along for the ride, and there were no serious attacks. However, that is about to change. I knew the attacks would come, and I was thinking about how to best to respond in a 5 versus 1 situation. I knew that Jacob and Oliver would likely be too strong for me at the end, and so if any of them went, I would let them go. However, it is actually Kjetil that goes first, and I decided not to respond at this point. I thought I could catch him on the climb as long as he didn't get too big of a gap. And I find myself in the front as I tried to keep a steady pace to not let the gap to Kjetil grow too much, and then another attack comes, and I do have to respond to this one. I do cover it, but I am starting to feel the effort. And I can also see that Jacob is starting to get a bit of a gap on me. But again, I am okay to let him go as I don't think I can keep up with him on the hill. I am, however, very glad to see we have now also dropped one of their riders, Stig. As we start going up Libby Hill for the last time, Jacob and Kjetil are around 5 seconds ahead. I push pretty hard at the start of the climb, and as we turn onto the cobbled section, Oliver and Anders go to the front. And I'm just trying to hang on at this point. Oliver, as expected, is too strong and he goes up the road. And then I'm fighting with Anders for the rest of the race. Strlght must have had really good legs, as I wasn't anywhere near catching him on the climb, so he's gone. Anders and I trade places a bit, and then when he starts his sprint, I am able to follow, and I have a final dig, and passing Anders at the very end, I finish in 4th place. Completely done in at this point. Looking at the results, we can see that Jacob won ahead of Strlght, with Oliver in 3rd. I am in 4th place, just ahead of Anders. Then there's a bit of a gap to Stig and the rest of the Bifrost team. As mentioned at the start, I knew that Bifrost was up against it in this race, and we did well in covering the attacks at the start. But we paid for that effort in the end, and the Valgrind team were too strong on the hills. So overall, not a really surprising result, and I think we did about as well as we could. Many congrats to the Valgrind team, and Strlght in particular, who I thought had a really strong race. Team Bifrost will take this one on the chin and come back fighting. Alright, few post-race thoughts as usual. Whew, another tough one. I really enjoyed that race. That course is fantastic. It's got a bit of everything. The other team, much better than us today. I thought that would be the case, but it was a bit more one-sided than I really wanted it. They had some good tactics at the start to tire us out with some constant kind of start-stop. And that showed when we got to the first hill, where I think 4 of our team got dropped, and then it was just me with the 5 of them for the rest of the race. Nothing much really happened after that. They kind of did a TT to get away from the rest of our team, which again is a smart tactic, I think. And then we got to about 3 kilometers to go or something like that. And then they started to, I think, try to tire me out. And it's really hard when you're 5 versus 1, especially when you know there's 2 guys on the other team that are much stronger than you. So trying to go long was just really not an option. But I tried my best. Was tired at the end. Tried to cover a few attacks, and that showed on the last hill where I just didn't have enough gas to go with the very front guys. But overall, pretty happy. It wasn't a fantastic race by me, but it wasn't bad either. Really good VO2 workout. So yeah, all in all, I really enjoyed that race. Again, chapeau to the other team. Valgrind, much stronger than us today, so well-deserved winners. But we'll dust ourselves off and come back stronger. So this is Sam, trying to spin to win on Zwift, and I'll see you in the next one.